No knowledge is ever wasted. I heard it from my mother, and I heard it from my grandmother, Dr. Dorothy Dunning Chacko. Grandmother Chacko was a medical doctor in India, and she started the first leprosy colony there. And when you think about that quote, if you're willing to look at all of your experiences through this lens, you may discover that all these experiences that seem totally unrelated are actually connected. It's this insight that helped me figure out how all my patterns were connected. And I think it's an incredibly valuable lens from which to look through at the future of work, which is changing on so many levels. Maybe all of you are feeling it as well. There may be a future of work, maybe a totally different chapter. If we can learn and grow from every experience, good and bad, if we can own more of who we are, our authentic selves, then we are on our way to living our best life. I invite all of you to dare to own who you are. Give yourself permission to turn your dreams into reality, to create those next chapters for yourself, personally or professionally or both. No knowledge is ever, ever wasted. In the words of Henry David Thoreau, go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you imagined. Live your best life for you. I'm not alone in this thinking. I recently read an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal that suggested the corporate environment is changing rapidly. And businesses are taking note of this, and bosses are taking note. They know that employees want to do more than just move up the career ladder. They want to progress. They want to feel valued. They want to feel empowered. And so as we think about that, how do we figure all that out? Certainly it is, what do I want in life? But I think the more important questions to be asking ourselves are, how do I want to feel every day? Am I thriving in my work environment? Am I thriving in my personal relationships? Or am I barely surviving? How happy am I? These can be hard questions to ask ourselves, and we sometimes fear the answer, so we don't even ask, or we stay in our comfort zone because that is what we know. And changing is hard. The unknown is scary. I've certainly asked myself these questions many times. My first chapter, I'm a classically trained singer. Yes, I am. And I sang semi-professionally and toured Europe, sang for Pope John Paul II. And at the same time, I was also teaching high school choral music. I've also had the chance to do the national anthem for the Celtics, the Patriots, and the Red Sox. And I've performed on stage with the Boston Pops. As I got close to the end of that 2-year teaching career, I had this really organic, gut-level feeling. There's something more I am supposed to do. I had absolutely no clue what that was. So I took a step back, and I worked in retail for a period of time. And I might add, I was quite successful at it, too. I made the Karen Charles $100,000 Club. Now, keep in mind, this is back in 1984. I was only working about 20 hours a week. So selling more than $100,000 worth of clothing back then is about more than $300,000 today. Well, during this time of reflection and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and keep in mind, this is before Google, I discovered something called informational interviews. I'd never heard of such a thing, but it gave me an idea. I had done one television commercial when I was Miss Illinois in the Miss America Scholarship Pageant. And I wondered, could I do something in television? Did I need to go back to school and get another degree? I didn't know. Well, there were 2 television stations in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, which was where I was living at the time. I bravely and blindly called them both up to do an informational interview and ask those very questions. Fast forward about 6 months in time, and a position was literally created for me at WCIA, the CBS affiliate in Champaign-Urbana. And that set me on a path for 28 years through 3 television stations, most recently 20 years at ABC TV in Boston as an Emmy Award-winning news anchor. And now, my 4th chapter as a keynote speaker, an author, a communications expert, and a podcast host. And when people hear this trajectory, like, you were doing what? You were singing and teaching, and then you went on TV? How in the world did that happen? Well, I connected my themes and patterns. As a teacher and a singer, we were sharing stories through song. As a journalist, I was sharing other people's stories. As a keynote speaker, I'm sharing my story using my voice, and as a communications expert, I am coaching my clients on how to craft their stories and learn to use their voice well. I've always loved television. It's been an amazing career. And I was honored and privileged to interview all kinds of people from all walks of life. There were a few celebrities like Oprah. That was a really long time ago if you look at that picture. I also had the opportunity to interview President Obama. There were major news stories, 9/11, the Boston Marathon bombings. And well, being from Boston, can I just say, we've had our share of sports championships, and I've covered a few in my day. This picture here is when I was able to cover the banner number 17, when the Celtics beat the Lakers. I hope there are no Lakers fans in the audience. Very sorry if there are. Are there any Lakers fans? Any Celtics fans? Okay, good. Very good. A few Celtics fans. Excellent. But you know, I started to have this feeling once again, this organic feeling, there's something more I'm supposed to do. Now, television has always been competitive. Somebody always wants your job. You have to win every newscast, every morning, every night. You're being judged every 15 minutes by the ratings. So, the last 2 years that I was in television, I was like, I gotta figure this out. What am I gonna do next? I really had no clue what that would be. The only thing I knew this time around that was different than the last time was that I believed I had skills that I had honed. I also believed that I had gifts and talents that I'd been blessed with, and I wanted to be able to use all of this knowledge, all of this experience, all of this expertise to be able to help other people, to be of service in some way. For 2 years, I quietly, and I hoped confidentially, talked to leaders in the community. What does somebody like me do when you think you might be ready to get off that anchor desk? Well, some of the information they gave me was very helpful, but some of it was also quite entertaining. I had one man share with me, well, I see you read the news every night. Trust me, it's more than just reading the news. What I quickly learned was that I had to be able to translate the language we use in TV to the language that the corporate world would understand. Breaking news in television is very much like crisis management in the corporate world. Being a project manager in the corporate world is very much like being a producer or reporter in television. The skills are the same. I'd kind of narrowed it down to maybe 3 different lanes I might go down if I decide to leave. And I shared this 3-lane approach with one of my mentors, and he said to me, Liz, you're well-known, you're well-respected, you have credibility. That is value. Why would you give that value to somebody else? Launch your business. If in 6 months or 9 months you don't like it, you don't have any clients, you can always go do something else. A kaleidoscope went click. And after 2 years of searching, in that instant, I made the decision in his office, in that moment, I'm going to launch a business. But wait, I have never, ever, ever wanted to own my own business. I didn't think I was smart enough to own my own business. That limiting belief had me petrified. What the hell am I doing? What if I have no clients? What if nobody wants to work with me? God forbid, what if I fail? I was so worried about what other people would think. And then I had to ask myself, well, what is my definition of failure? What is your definition of failure? We're all going to face quote unquote failure at some point in time in life. But it's only a failure if you don't learn the lesson. My mantra has always been, just because I've never done something doesn't mean I can't. I just have to try. I just have to try. This quote by Dr. Robert Schuller truly kept me going. What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? What would any of us do if we knew we wouldn't fail? If we didn't allow fear to stop us in any area of our life? Asking for a promotion, negotiating a new contract, starting over again. Those are hard questions to ask, and they're scary questions to ask. Talk about scary. Has anybody gone skydiving? Oh, good, some of you have. Terrifying and exhilarating all at the same time, yes? Yeah. The funny thing is, I was more terrified of launching a business than I was of jumping out of an airplane at 10,000 feet. At least when I went skydiving, I had a parachute. I hoped when I launched my business, I would have a parachute and maybe a soft landing. I took a leap of faith, and I launched Brunner Communications in 2013 with the sole purpose of helping people get unstuck, helping them transform from where they are to where they want to go to who they want to be, personally or professionally. Help them with their communication skills, presentation skills, their leadership, their life lessons. And media training, too, was thrown in there for good measure. Now, some people might say, well, it sounds like you've just reinvented yourself. Well, there's nothing wrong with that word, reinvention. I like to call it recreation. To me, reinvention means you're doing a complete 180. Everything is all new. Whereas recreation, you're taking all of that knowledge, all of that experience, and you're using it to create your next chapter.